I apologize for my extended absence, everybody. The last 2 weeks were marked by some unhealthy health shit. And, well, I don't think I'm quite off the mountain yet, but I'm definitely over the peak. Thank you so much for breaking me 10k. Just 10,000 subscribers. I can't believe how quick this was, right? And I'm grateful for every single one of you. Even you, Mark. I know nobody likes you in real life and also online, but at least you have me. Just don't contact me or come to my house, ever. So more than 2 weeks into the hopefully glorious year of 2018, I thought we should probably put on some tinfoil and engage in some baseless conspiracy theorizing, because why the fuck not? Do note that all of this is just brainstorming nonsense and I don't actually strongly believe any of these things that I'm about to say. I do think that they are plausible, they might well be true, but they probably aren't true. You know, like Mark Zuckerberg being a human. Could be true. Probably isn't. I just realized I don't actually own any tinfoil because I disapprove of it as a packaging material and I care about the planet. So I'm just going to put this funnel on my head and hopefully it'll just send the brainwaves upward or something. I don't know. It'll work out. The social justice movement is... This is just what I do now. The social justice movement is, as everyone can tell, an elitist movement, a top-down movement, not a grassroots one. It neither has the support of the common people, nor will its goals help them in any way, shape or form. It is an attempt at a controlled revolution, and it is currently in danger of failing quite spectacularly. So the SJWs are in large parts funded by huge corporations and foundations and other shady entities, and the people actually on the ground, the people who are part of the movement, they're genuine. They just think this is a good thing. The people pulling the strings, however, are not. What they're doing is they're trying to create a fake revolutionary movement because they know that some form of revolutionary movement is coming. So it's only smart to have it be a revolutionary movement that you already control. They've been shitting on people with increasing frequency and intensity over the past decades, really almost a century, and the common people, the plebeians, if you will, are becoming aware of that. Wages and standard of living are down, surveillance and fear is up, and we live in a time of great freedom and innovation, yet we aren't free. And there are some things that modern people just espouse. You know, we want no discrimination between the genders. We want men and women to be equal. We want no discrimination against minorities, especially racial ones. We want to be free to love whomever we wish to love, and to do in the privacy of our bedrooms whatever we want to do in the privacy of our bedrooms. We want to be unique individuals in charge of shaping our own personality in all aspects. Those are some of the core tenets of the Western mindset. SJWs are, at least on the surface, about all of these things. And through their infiltration of the social sciences, they've been able to take up the mantle of intellectualism. So if now someone asks, hey, how about maybe how would we go about unfucking black people? How would we do that? They can step in and say, hey, I know how to do it. I have the best answer to this question because I'm a fucking scientist. It's science after all. I mean, it's shit science, but people don't have to know that, and they don't. You ever notice how all of the solutions that the SJWs propose for problems that we all agree exist are supremely authoritarian? You know how the things they campaign for tend to try to curtail individual rights, like a freedom of speech and self-determination, and how their rhetoric tends to pit people who should be fighting the actual real oppressors that do exist in society against each other, or possibly against oppressors that don't actually exist. It's very interesting to see who profits most from the poor and shrinking middle class of the Western world to be pointing fingers at each other and at meaningless sacrificial lambs instead of at the people who are forgoing the lubricant in the process of fucking them in the arse. You know, the people who set up these terrible systems that only they can benefit from in the first place? The people who are trying to destroy the middle class and small business, who are already exploiting the poor, who are taking tax money, your tax money, from a government they have bought. It has come to the point where people are so aware of this, so pissed about it, so desperate to see actual meaningful change that the pot is brewing and revolution is afoot. Trump was an act of desperation in that regard, and now that he has demonstrated that he is either unwilling or too incompetent to do anything for the working class, well, tension is once again building. And don't come at me with "my stock market spike." I'm sure the cabbage farmer in rural Alabama is really happy about the fact that his blue chips are doing well right now. And the coal miner in rural Illinois, he's probably talking to his broker team right now. He's on the phone right now and talking about how they should probably offload some of the best stock that he has to pay for the treatment of his pulmonary disease. It's happened so many times in history, right? The rich get richer and richer and richer, the poor get poorer and poorer and poorer, and the middle class is pushed down and boom! You got yourself a revolution. There's a number of ways such a revolution might go down, but the one feature they all have in common is that the elites who actually set up the terrible system that is being revolutioned against generally tend to have their heads separated from their bodies. That is, of course, a fate that most reasonable people would seek to avoid. Having your head separated from your body is a very unpleasant experience, and you can even die from it. So now, if you're one of these elites who has money and power so far beyond the common plebeian's imagination that it is almost comical, you see this revolution coming on the horizon, and the prospect of having your head lobbed off doesn't really appeal to you. What do? Well, of course you use your unimaginably vast resources to make a revolution of your own. The idea is that people will release their anger and resentment towards the establishment while not actually hurting the real establishment. If you do it right, this fake revolution might even empower the establishment in ways that we would recoil at in horror right now. The social movement acts as a focus for people's ill-defined anger and misdirects it away from the establishment at other targets that have it turn increasingly authoritarian and also really benefit the establishment of the future. You get to curtail freedom of speech to just preserve the good tone of conversation and prevent word discrimination, and you also get to increase surveillance and destroy the justice system so you can persecute the wrong thinkers that the people want to see persecuted because they are evil and they are to blame for all the ills of society. You get a justification to indoctrinate new generations from a very early age away from critical thinking and into a mindset that will have them look anywhere but you for the culprit of their ills. Instead of dethroning the establishment, the revolution has, by sleight of hand and misdirection, made the establishment more powerful. You want to see a card trick? Look over there! Didn't even see how I made the card disappear. That was some fucking proper misdirection right there. That's how it works. I can't be the only one who is a bit surprised that Occupy Wall Street got very, very little media coverage back when it was a movement about the economic rift between the rich and the poor. But suddenly, when it became flooded with fruitcakes that came out of the woodwork somehow, it became a news sensation. What would have been a revolutionary movement focused on the issues that the elites would actually have to be afraid of, it was flooded with what is essentially proto-SJWs and thereby destroyed. If you look at the people who fund these new movements, like a BLM, apparently Black Lives Matter is financed in significant portions by establishment avatar George Soros. You know the guy who was always to blame for everything. Now, I don't know George Soros personally, but I'm reasonably certain that he doesn't actually agree with most of what Black Lives Matter says, and he doesn't want them to be the leaders of America for obvious fucking reasons. Especially in America, the tactic of separating the poor along racial lines and making sure they're pitted against each other instead of against the people who are actually fucking oppressing them has a great history of success. It's called divide and conquer, and establishments long forgotten by time have used it for thousands of years. This is not some grand conspiracy, by the way. This isn't some prefab ideology created by a massive think tank involving hundreds, if not thousands, of paid actors to astroturf a grassroots ideology. All you need to make this happen is a few people with gargantuan amounts of money, maybe a very small think tank, mainly comprised of those people with a lot of money. You don't even need to have most of the establishment in on it, right? They're so rich and powerful, just a couple people can, if they do it right, can change how America thinks, easy. So, and this is how you would go about it if you ever found yourself in the position of being a billionaire oligarch. Should really be a DIY channel for tyrants at this point. I picked the wrong audience. You find a political ideology or school of thought that you see it will be easy to instrumentalize, right? Then you fund the shit out of it so you can make it bigger and control nudge it in the right direction to have it go where you want to go, roughly, and not just spin off in some insane bullshit, which is something you can do with money. Now, of course, it needs to be something that has, at least on paper, a broad appeal to people. So if you were to fund the Nazi Party right now, you wouldn't get very far, because people generally don't like Nazis. It takes a long time to engineer, but most of it actually happens on its own, because the people who are actually in the trenches doing the social justice movementing, they believe that they are genuine revolutionaries fighting against an evil system. They aren't actors, they're just misled people. And then you can use your vast power and influence to place those misled people in the right positions in society. This is one of the reasons why the media seems to be so fucking full of SJWs while the general populace is not. To control the narrative, the establishment needs to control the media, but if it puts people in there who are in on the conspiracy and sort of astroturf it from up top, then the circle of people grows who know about the conspiracy, and it becomes very dangerous because it might be uncovered, especially when you're dealing with journalists. But the establishment owns these media corporations, and the best way to control what is said and what isn't said on the media is to put true believers in positions of power, because they will do what you want them to do for you without knowing that they're involved in a conspiracy. It has the intended effect. It lacks a little bit of fine-tuning because you can't obviously give them specific instructions, but you can't control a movement like this anyway. It just lessens the risk of there being a massive reveal of the huge conspiracy you've created, because then the revolution would come. Even in the top echelons of the SJW movement, which aren't really well defined because most of the movement did actually grow organically, you will have only a small handful of people, if at all, who are in on it, if you will. The argument that you couldn't engineer a social movement like this because of all the people involved that would have to keep the conspiracy secret just doesn't hold any weight, because there are very few people who actually know about the conspiracy. You could have the guy that takes the money from the establishment and gives it to the SJWs, and he wouldn't know. He would just think that, oh, those rich fucks are so disconnected from reality that they want to give these SJWs money. It's not my problem, they're paying me too. He wouldn't know that it's all fake. And as the resentment continues to grow in the system that is still shit because it's not been changed in the slightest, people, eventually the pot boils over and people get so angry that they want to do something. They want to go out on the streets, they want to go on the barricades, they want to fucking fight the system. And then your already prepared movement, the SJW movement, is conveniently there and has all the answers to all the problems. It's all already thought out. All you have to do is go in there and follow the lead, and all your dreams will come true. And then boom, the pleb is suddenly the agent of his own demise. Very often these movements will actually idolize establishment figureheads when it comes to actually placing people in positions of power. You know, like a certain politician who lost the election to a guy with a funny haircut. This has been tried in the past, this has worked in the past. Mao did it. A lot of people would argue that Julius Caesar did it when he transformed the Roman Republic into the Roman Empire. And a lot of historians even say that the people who initially funded Hitler did this, even though it did go a little bit awry. But something happened this time around that kind of threw a wrench in the system, right? we got a look at the machine before it was ready. And instead of the polished exterior frame, the beautiful chassis, full of all the solutions and all the beautiful things that all the people could possibly want, we saw the naked interior of the machine, the systems that actually do and deliver the things that the social movement was engineered to do. This something that happened was Gamergate. What started as a minor scandal soon developed into a huge reveal as to the impossibly corrupt internal structures of the games media. And with the way that the regular media acted, they demonstrated that they had the same structures. So people dug in there and they found the same things. A whole cottage industry of political pundits and social commentators was just created out of nothing. Because people wanted to know what the fuck was going on. Because people wanted people to dig into this, to find out what's going on behind the scenes. The greatest and smartest astroturfing movement in human history went up against the greatest and smartest iteration of humanity of all time. If this astroturfing movement had succeeded, and if it ever succeeds, it might still, it will lock humanity in a master-slave dynamic forever. There will be no escape. But it is going up against the hive mind of the demos. And the hive mind of the demos does not like what it sees. This is why the establishment has always, from the very beginning, tried to destroy the internet in ever new and creative ways. It's the only thing they have been consistently doing for years and years and years, because they know if you want to control ideas, the discourse, the hive mind, if you want to keep it in check, you need to control the internet. And thank Keck that we resisted it. In all the different iterations, with all the different excuses, with all the different reasons that they put in place to create legislature that would have destroyed internet freedom. I mean, now they have succeeded in, net neutrality destruction, but what are you gonna do? But because we got to look at behind the scenes before the movement actually got ready to fulfill its purpose, it's falling apart. People are laughing at it. It's being destroyed, it's being ripped apart by the common people who have seen what's really going on, thanks to the work of the sleuths and these political commentators and whatever, right? You can ask the biggest normie in the universe, and they'll know what an SJW is, they'll know what a feminist is, and they will be distrustful of their bullshit. Look at all these feminism wrecked compilations. This isn't an isolated phenomenon, right? I mean, sure, that most people will probably, if they know about Gamergate, consider Gamergate to be alt-right. But Gamergate has succeeded in that the social justice movement is now met with widespread distrust in all but the very top echelons of society. The establishment is, of course, not a monolith. There are establishment people who are good at their core and are trying to make the world a better place, right? Elon Musk seems to fall into this category. There are establishment people who are fundamentally evil, and for whom the term comic book villain would be a comical understatement. Peter Brabeck appears to fall into this category. And again, all of this is just pure speculation, but it is interesting to see how this neo-progressive movement that is funded by the very same elites that fucked up society and the economy and everything in the first place now proclaims to be able to fix all of those things for the common people while actually de facto not doing any of that. It's just too much of a convenient coinkydink. Remember, calling something a conspiracy theory is not an argument. Conspiracies have happened since the beginning of human history, and they will happen until the point where there is only one more human left in the universe. And as far as conspiracy theories go, this one is very plausible, right? It only requires a small group of rational actors acting in their own best interest. There is historical precedent for similar conspiracies happening and succeeding in the past, and it does not require aliens or mystical Jew magic. So yeah, do let me know what you think about this in the comments. I am now back in the YouTube saddle, as it were. There will be no short stories on the short story channel this month, but there will be a very spicy special next month in February, and then in March there will be some alterations to the channel, which I will explain at some point. It's not like anybody watches that channel anyway. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much again for the 10K. As you can see, I am already proudly displaying my hot air play button. It is, I've got it very quickly in the mail. People always say that YouTube takes a long time to deliver these. No, it's right here. And it's gonna be there forever. You know, if I move, I'll take it somewhere else, obviously, but it's not gonna stay fixed in the same location. You know what I mean. So you're all the best. Thank you so much. I love you. Except you, Mark. I mean, you're okay, but I'm not gonna... Let's not make this awkward, right? So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, donate to my PayPal. See you around, cunts!